Hey, party people, and welcome to this episode of But Are You Weird? A podcast dedicated to spending time talking with some creative, captivating, and downright cool people, diving into their world and ultimately asking, but are you weird? I'm Amanda, your host and resident weirdo, and I'm so happy you're here. And our guest on this episode is Krystal. Yay! I feel like I do this all the time. I wanted to call you first name, last name, because I feel like when I think of you as a first name, last name person.
It's so funny. In high school, everybody used to call me first name, last name.
Yeah. But are you, I'm just thinking like Facebook, Instagram, are you stealth mode? Like,
no, no.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah.
I don't want to blow up your spot and be like, well, this is her first name and her last name, so go find her everywhere.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, look me up.
Yeah, you're definitely, I'm just going to call you Krystal, though.
This sounds good to me.
And then while I was driving over here, I was thinking, because I am an anxious person, of course, and I'm like, Krystal, okay, it's pronounced Krystal. Like, there's no other way to say it, right? And then I thought, I actually don't know very many Krystals. Like, yeah, I think I know Kristins.
It's a dying name. Yeah.
Well, that's a really sad way.
I think no, it's true. It's true. A lot of the recent generations haven't named their kids Krystal. So yeah, it's like Leslie, Robin, Tiffany. Like we used to hear those names all the time, but not so much now.
So Krystal, Krystal was a popular name. I mean, I'm not.
Yes. For millennials, yes, definitely, yes.
I think you're the last Krystal I've met.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is nice. Yeah. So we should probably talk about, actually, you know what? Before we talk about how we met, let's talk about who you are. So Krystal, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes. So I am a licensed professional counselor or licensed mental health professional based out of Connecticut. I like to travel. I am a self-proclaimed foodie. I love to build experiences. That's how I like to spend my money, spend my time. And my passion now is, growing my business and just understanding kind of all the different parts of me that feed my creativity, but also regulate my nervous system.
Ooh, I like that. Regulating the nervous system, of course. You mentioned, I definitely want to talk about mental health, but the travel and food part, that is something I think about seeing you on social media because really that's how we've stayed connected. You are traveling really often and I love it because I feel like your approach to travel is very, how would I describe it? I was thinking like open-hearted, like up for the experience, like truly trying to get an appreciation for culture, like doing new things, putting yourself out there. And so have you always been that sort of person or did life take you in a way where you're like, you know what, I actually want to start to do these things?
I appreciate how you just shared how you see it because that is exactly how I approach travel. Like I love an immersive experience. I actually had my mom used to take us a lot of places domestically when we were kids, museums, just different random towns and cities and things like that. And when I was 15, I actually got the opportunity with Girl Scouts to travel to India for 3 weeks. They have a Girl Scout location there. Yeah. So we did that. And then we spent a few days in London and Paris. So by the time I was 15, I had already been to 3 different countries. And by the time I was 20, I added on a couple more countries to that as well. Most of them having to do with being in some type of school program or other type of, kind of group experience. So that really opened up my mind. I've always been curious about, I think that probably ties into being in mental health as well, just curious about sociology, how people connect, how people evolve, different things like that. So I'm not like a museum head or anything like that, but I do like going to a museum and seeing exhibits and just understanding who the artist is and how they create. And so I think that's how I approach travel. For me, it is also a way that I reset my system. And so it's when I travel, I post way more when I travel because I'm so inspired and just creative and there's just more to do. And I think there's a bit of a freedom for me as well. When I'm traveling is actually my goal to be able to do that for most of the year if I can. sometime in the future. So that's kind of what I'm trying to set up now to be able to have, just the income and the space to do that. But yeah, this year I am on track, I think, for 7 countries, I think,
Whoa.
which is kind of, when I say it, I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I know for people, that's not really a normal thing. So, I've had conversations with people about, like, is there a disconnect? And I'm just like, it's just my life. Like, I don't know. I just have learned to incorporate travel as a means of self-care, but also just to like help myself continue to grow and connect as a person. So
Yeah, there is definitely something, I think, restorative about traveling because you
for
are
sure.
certainly like suspending whatever reality you're in back home and truly immersing yourself somewhere else if you allow yourself to truly be immersed and right. I'm thinking about Dawn, who was on the podcast before, like when she travels, like she's doing all the stuff that's like not on your top 10 list, right? She's not going to go to the tourist trap. She's really trying to figure out like, what is this place? What can I see? What is new and different than back home? And so, yeah, building that time in to do that travel, experiencing something else, the joy, the excitement, all the novelty is totally taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. And I build most of my itineraries myself, probably 98% of the time. It's because it's actually fun for me to like do the research and see what are you talking about on TikTok, Pinterest, like what things should I, go out to see? What would I be interested in? And then also to just give myself the flexibility. So a lot of times when I do travel, even though I love to travel solo, usually my family or friends or someone else will, hop on the trip. So because it gives them an opportunity that maybe they didn't have, before.
I have to admit, I definitely creep on your stuff when you're traveling because I'm like, is she alone? Is she okay? Who's she with?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'm always, oh gosh, I don't know. I'm telling you, it's just the reality of it. I'm always like, okay, did she put the camera down to take the picture or did she ask someone or is there someone she knows with her? So I got to ask, when there's pictures of yourself in other countries, if you're solo traveling, do you ask other people to take a picture?
Yes. Yep. I ask other
Oh,
people. I have tripods. I just invested in DJI action camera, which I love. So a lot of times I can, film myself.
ooh,
But
no, what's
yeah,
that? Is it
yeah,
like a GoPro style thing?
kind of, yeah, kind of like that. And I just like the ease, like it can shoot wide lens. It takes really great pictures, but also really crisp video. The sound is pretty good, like even if you don't have a mic. So I really, obviously you can do all
Oh.
of these things with your phone as well, because that has all of those things as well. But yeah, sometimes if I need, like, I want a picture, I'm like, hey, can you take my picture? And, I think for me, like, I don't have that, and maybe something's wrong with my internal meter, but I don't get scared or fearful like that. It's just like, okay, I'm going into it. I know what I need, what I want, and if I need to connect with someone to incorporate that into my experience, then that's what I'll do. But you'll be surprised how many people just they want to help, or they say, "Oh, can you take mine?" And then sometimes there's photographers. So when I went to Paris with my nephew, there was photographers right in front of the Eiffel Tower. So I just took a picture with them for like 20 euros.
Perfect person, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but these are things that you discover as you travel. You understand for yourself what is important. What do you need? Who might you need with you? I mean, if I am solo, I don't advertise that I'm solo. So that's why you never will see if I'm with someone, not with someone, unless it's like I'm clearly like, hey, we're going on a sister's trip or something like that.
Yep.
Because honestly, number one is nobody's business,
Mm-hmm.
who I'm with. But number two, like I'm safe. I promise that
Okay.
I'm safe. I've looked up the embassy. Like there's just things that I've learned. I think I'm going on almost 24 countries at this point. There's a lot of things that I've learned about travel and like just kind of how to keep myself safe.
I think I really admire people who solo travel because I'm such an anxious person.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I don't know if you ever had to do an assignment like this, but when I was an undergrad, we had to go out to dinner by ourselves. Did you ever have to do that?
Yes.
And I remember it was so uncomfortable and awkward. And for me at the time, and then of course now I'm like, I revel in those moments to do things alone. And so I can only imagine what it feels like now to solo travel. But as someone who has never done it, of course I have my preconceptions and my anxieties that I'm like, oh, is that person okay? And what I'm hearing
Right.
is like, you are taking care of yourself. You're good. Thank you.
Right. Of course. Of course. Yeah. So I did that. And I remember, yeah, it was a little awkward at first because I mean, I grew up with, three siblings. My mom has a lot of siblings. She's one of 13. So, I was always with friends, always with someone. So I was kind of like, oh, got to go by myself. But now my friends have to remind me like, hey, I'm available. You can call me. Like I would have did that with you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I'm just like, I want to do it. Why am I waiting? So
Hmm.
just understanding for myself at this point as to like what's important for me to do solo and what would I like to share with someone else. That's important for me to know now. But I do want to host trips as well. That's coming up for me. So definitely hosting maybe for first time, solo travelers, and they can come out and, they don't have to worry about the itinerary or anything like that. But, I would help them basically discover, themselves in how they travel. So yeah.
I got two questions. One, I don't want to lose track of. One thing you had said when you said like something like when I mentioned 7 countries or something, people might say there's a disconnect. What did you mean by that? Like they ask you if there's a disconnect.
Yeah, because for many people, they don't leave their
Couch.
state, their country.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have the means, and I think sometimes when people think about travel, they think about spending so much money. I don't try like for what people might pay for one trip in a year. I've done several trips. I think sometimes I've had this conversation with my sibling. Of like this is not normal, and I'm like, well, it's normal for me. I think it's just not normal in your orbit, in your atmosphere. And so I had to reconcile that with myself that, again, I'm sharing because this is my life experience, not because I'm, trying to, showboat or, anything like that. I'm just saying that, I found something that was important to me to do. And this is a normal part of my life. And so I want to be able to share that, but keeping in mind that that's not something that everyone has access
Right.
to, the privilege of it.
Yeah. When you just said showboat, that like bells and whistles went off for me because I 100% do not get the vibe at all that it is like, oh, look at where I am and look at what I'm doing. It's to me, when I see that you're traveling, I just think, man, she's in joy mode, right? Like she found the thing, she's doing the thing, she's loving it. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem like this, let me show off. And I've been in that position where it's like, the image that you want to present is like, oh, yeah, I'm traveling and I'm doing this thing, peasants that are at home. But that's not what I get at all from you, just so you know.
Okay. Yeah, no, good, good. And I think it's like I just watched this TikTok the other day where it was like when you have a friend who travels a lot and the person was like, "Oh yeah, they were some conversation like, "Oh, what are you going to make for dinner?" "Oh, remember the time I made pasta in Italy?" And I laughed. I laughed because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so that person." But it's like, you want
Yeah.
people to I mean, again, it's my, experience. That's just what
Yeah,
you
there's
connect to
no
sometimes.
intent. There's no intent, ulterior motive attached to it. You are actually just sharing the story. It's not
Exactly.
like, let me make you feel less than. It's like, no, I did this really cool thing before and I want to tell you about it. I want to share this joy with you.
Right, exactly.
Um, you have already alluded a few times to weird, by the way. So you mentioned like your family sort of wondering like, that's not normal, right? So traveling that much is certainly something that potentially might make you weird. You also talked about when I asked you about like having other people take the picture, you mentioned like it's not foreign, right? And so it made me think immediately of like the more life experience you have, the more you get through life, the more you see, the more you realize things actually aren't that weird. So like I would feel uncomfortable maybe asking someone to take a picture. But when you've actually traveled as much as you have, you realize it's actually not that weird at all. It's actually pretty standard, pretty typical. So I think that's like a little mini lesson to learn of like the more you do things, the more you see, the more you experience, the less you realize you're actually weird. You're actually doing exactly what you should be doing. And that's probably being authentic is what it boils down to.
Yeah. And then you just think to yourself, if I return, when I leave here, am I going to regret that I didn't just ask someone to take the picture? It's like, I want the picture. So just,
yeah, so you asked for the picture. Yeah.
Right,
A,
right.
B, here you
Right.
go.
What do I want to sit with? The awkwardness or the slight discomfort of asking a stranger? Or do I want to sit with the regret of not having, captured this moment? And so for me, it's like, I do a lot of things for the plot. I don't want to sit with the regret of not having it, you know? So, for instance, when I went to Mexico City a couple months ago, I went in a hot air balloon. I do not like heights. I'm not a heights person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I did it for the plot. I'm like, I want to go in the air balloon. I want to see how it is. Now, granted, when we were up there for about 15 minutes, I said, I've seen it. I've done it. I'm ready to go down. But that was not the experience, you know? And so now
Yeah.
it's like, I come back, and I have these great pictures and these, these videos of just being up there in the sky floating over the pyramids. And it's like, wow, this was so cool. Like I have such rich stories from all of my experiences, and maybe who knows how they will come forward, in the future for my life. But I'm just so glad that I do choose to do things sometimes, even when they're not so comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like I can look back on it and I'm like, wow, I do know how to take care of myself, even in uncomfortable moments, and recognize the difference between, hey, I'm afraid and this is my fight or flight telling me, don't do, it's keeping me safe, or like, hey, I'm a little bit afraid, but it's because of past things that maybe I just need to take care of myself so I can, not miss out on having this experience. So there's a difference. And that just comes with knowing yourself, kind of like going back to having the dinner by yourself. Is like, oh, it was awkward at first, but now it's like, hey, I don't have to share with anybody else. The kids are not asking me for food.
You can
like,
leave whenever you want, show up whenever you want. Yeah.
Right.
Have you always been someone that leaned into, I would say, like that discomfort, or that not so much unknown, but that like, ooh, I don't know about this?
I've always been a person that's been interested in like the why, like understanding the journey and the process. I really enjoy reading autobiographies. One of my favorite things to do, especially if I can listen to the author read it, because I just feel like I just find people's lives very interesting, and how we discover ourselves again and again, and just there's just different eras and versions of us. And so yeah, I just learned for myself of like, okay, what's important to you? I believe it was a pivotal time for me in probably about 2016, 2017, after I had like a medical complication. And I just was like, you know what? I am kind of stuck. And so what am I going to do about it? What do I need to do to heal myself? And I booked a retreat in Bali. I did not know, not any one person on that retreat. And I flew, across the world and discovered a new part of myself. And that really was the precipice for me, for everything, my life, now just the start of my healing journey, and start of me being curious about entrepreneurship, and how I show up online and how I connect with people. And so, I think that it's very important for us to take the time to be intentional about discovering, who we are.
I have similarly feel like for me, it was like 2015 that became like a clear division in like who I was, really discovering myself. When you reflect back on 2016, 2017, does it feel like two versions of yourself? Like this was the version, and not to say like they're entirely separate, like they influence one another, but do you see your life up to 2016, 2017 as being one Krystal, and then the one afterward as being like, okay, this is new?
Yeah, absolutely. I also, in that time frame, I started going to a therapist. That was my first time going to therapy as well. So it was like, I was very much like, okay, we have to figure out what is going on, because I'm noticing some patterns and I'm down bad, I need to figure out how to deal with this, better. And I also was like, I don't know, I feel like there's at least one person in a family that's always like, all right, we have to tackle these generational curses so we can, and I feel like that was the time for me to do that, where I was like, I don't want to keep, repeating things, and I need to understand why. And so, yeah, when I look back at that person, I'm like, oh, I feel like it was like adolescence to like moving into, young adulthood or something like that, because I also was just around 30 at the time. And, it's a different decade. You just approach things differently in your 30s. And now that I'm in my 40s, I approach it, so it's a little different too. But so yeah, it does. I'm like, okay, I feel like that's my little sister. Like I want to give her a hug. Like, girl, it's gonna be
Oh
okay.
my gosh, yes. I got the metaphor analogy in my head of like, up until that point, like someone else was writing the story, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I think I can actually write this story. Like, I can change some of the narrative here. I can make the new plot. I can decide what's best instead of like just being passive in whatever's happening around you.
Right. Yeah. And when things are slapping you around, it's like, oh my gosh, let me go, life, let me go, let me get a little breathing room. And I had to decide, like, okay, I can, I can stay down, or I can figure out what I have to do to like get back on my feet and to really cope better with all the things that are going on.
I feel like it's really interesting and wonderful to hear about therapy, first of all, but especially because you are a therapist. And so you had mentioned that in 2016, 2017, like looking into entrepreneurship. Tell us about what you're doing entrepreneurial wise and how mental health fits into that.
Yeah. So I started my own practice in 2018, and the purpose was to really connect with helping professionals. So people who are out here, they've dedicated their life in service to other people. So your teachers, your medical professionals, attorneys, just anybody, first responders. And the reason why I chose that is because pretty early in my career, I had a experience of burnout, physical burnout. I was with kind of vertigo for a while, and I couldn't really work. I was just out of sorts. And I know that was because not only I pushed too hard, but I think also just the system, working in community mental health and all the things as a new mental health professional. And so I wanted to assist other helping professionals with managing all of that, that we don't have to burn out, but if we do, how we got the tools to be able to recover from it. And so in 2021, basically the pandemic put everybody into, crisis mode, if I can say that, where everybody was looking for a therapist. And I did not have the capacity to take any more people on. I was also working full time in the correctional system. And I said, you know what? I had a couple friends, and we all said, we have our own practices, but we should hire people. And so we all made a pact that we were going to grow into a group practice in our own separate practices, but go on that journey together. And so that's what I did. And now I'm at the point where I'm in another pivot with the practice, but it's great. I'm excited about it. I was able to get some coaching and get some support in order to help me to get to this place of really locking in to my vision of where we can go. And so we offer services all across Connecticut. Our main service is offering one-to-one therapy, but we are planning to extend this year with doing more EMDR therapy, doing intensives, offering, partnerships with other community providers to be able to expand the access to providers. So I'm actively hiring at this point.
There's a promo. Yep.
Yep. So it's, I think for the first time since I started this journey that I am really excited about where things are going. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just because I have a really great community of other entrepreneurs as well, and the coaching to help, support me through the roller coaster that entrepreneurship is.
Is it, so for clarity, is the therapy for specifically helping professionals, or is it for anyone?
Yeah, so it's for anyone. It's for anyone. Our goal is that we want to make prioritizing wellness feel easy. So we want to help you build the tools to be able to care for yourself in the way that makes sense for you. And so we provide the support in that way. And so where we're going is expanding that with other services in addition to education and medication management.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, it is. Entrepreneurship is, people say it's like 24/7. You really, when you are in charge of that vision and that dream, like you are working nonstop. I don't know. People make it seem so easy, right? Oh, just start your own business and it'll be fine. And it's like, no, there's a lot of stuff. And I can imagine possibly a lot of sleepless nights, like wondering, like, how do I make this work? Is this really what I want? And making sure your vision and your passion lines up with what you're creating. And you are in charge of that.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to constantly realign to your vision, to your mission, and understand too, like, is this still true for me? And if it's not still true for you, then you have to ask yourself, is it that my vision has changed? Or is it that my business model needs to change, that there needs to be a pivot? And so for me too, it was really looking at, like, I used to listen to a lot of podcasts, entrepreneurial podcasts, business minded podcasts, because even if you look at the largest businesses, they're always trying something new. There was just only, one brand of soda. And then now it's like this soda, now I have
Hmm.
it with lime. Now I have it with raspberry. Oh, now we
Right.
have this just for a limited time. So they're always trying something new and you have to be innovative. And I think sometimes we can get stuck. There was definitely a time, 2022 to 2024, when I was growing my team and I realized that I didn't have enough of the foundation in place. I left my job without having as much of a savings as I needed to give myself that runway. So I think we have to be mindful of that. And it is pretty brave. It's very courageous to step into something and to do something based upon what you feel called to do. And that doesn't mean that it comes without its deficits or its trying times. We just have to take audit and look at data and figure out if what we're feeling right now is because there's something that is not happening correctly and how our business is operating and how it's functioning. And so I've learned that now from my experience of, again, feeling like I was slacked around by entrepreneurship and just being like, okay, I got to stop the bleeding. What is it? What do I need right now? Okay, I can do the part time. But I've come to a place now where I've figured it out. I understand what's the minimum amount that I need to do. And I understand so much about how my capacity instructs or influences a lot of how my business is able to grow. And so now I'm like, I need a leadership team. I need to have aligned team members to be able to help to foresee, to really put into place, grow, that vision. So it's not so much of like, oh, hey, I'm on the boat and I'm rowing it and I'm putting all this power into it and the
Yeah.
boat hasn't moved that far. It's like, no, you have to have a strategy. You have to
Yeah.
understand where you're going and, what's happening this year, what's happening 3 years, where do you foresee and what does it take to get there? So now my goal is really to build with simplicity, to build with my nervous system, my capacity in mind, and also being understanding that change is always going to happen because the
Hmm.
business is a living, breathing thing based upon, as how far we can go as a person. That's kind of steering this thing.
It's kind of meta in some ways because you're providing care for individuals who are feeling any number of ways. I think about, you mentioned like feeling burned out in different spaces too, and mental health. And yet as a business owner and an entrepreneur, like you're also managing all of your mental health experiences related to this business that is meant to support people in their mental health experiences. It's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff nested in there. So how do you take care of yourself throughout all of this?
Yeah, one of the things that I didn't mention is that I don't have as much clinical work. So I
Okay.
have only a handful of clients. And that was necessary for me to do in order to step more into the CEO role because I was so focused on working in the business. And as an entrepreneur, you have to work on the business. You have to work on the things that, again, that foundation. And so my clinical work has changed more into doing things such as that are, more somatic, such as I was recently trained in EMDR. So focusing on that and then also focusing on, partnerships and education. So doing more speaking, more workshops, more things like that, where I can still utilize my creativity but also my clinical skills in order to help people in a wider kind of cast a wider net for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of what has helped me is understanding what do I want to do, where can I be of service at this point in time, but also giving myself permission to not be on all the time. That is something that I think any person struggles with. Moms struggle with it, ambitious people struggle with it. Of it's like, I didn't get this done, something was left. And I've had to intentionally be like, I'm not opening this email today. Today, I recognize that I am overstimulated And if I'm going to do anything, then it's going to be time limited. And after that, I'm going to do something to take care of me. And so really understanding, again, the capacity where your needs may be, and also leaning into community. But there are a lot of hard days, and I have a couple group chats. I have a few really great friends where I can just call them or voice note them, and they'll be like, girl, I understand. And I need to just release it out and then understand, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing from here? So making decisions much more quickly than I was, because it allows me to not have to continue to sit in a space that's not serving me. So that's one of those are a few things, but also travel helps. And sometimes just laying in my bed and doing nothing, honestly, is like the most restorative thing for me, of just just sitting back and scrolling YouTube shorts and, just enjoying my life.
I've heard of YouTube shorts, but I have not scrolled. And now that gives me something to do later.
Oh my gosh. My algorithm is like, everything is like either a bakery or it's somebody's, doing something to their home, they're doing renovations. I watch this man restore furniture and I'm just like.
I get trapped sometimes when Facebook when I'm scrolling and I see the landscapers. Have you seen like the before and afters, and it's like sped up and you can hear like, it's like the sound of the weed whacker. Like I am mesmerized by those
I just
videos.
watched this man make coffee. He works in a cafe. He has on his, Meta glasses or whatever, his Ray-Bans, and he's making coffee. And I watched so many videos, like 30 minutes. I'm just watching him make coffee. And I'm like, this is great. I feel so good about this. The other thing is now it's getting warm. We live in New England. It's getting warm. And, I can go out for a walk. So it's really looking at activities that are not going to make my system even more flared up, when I'm already overstimulated. So sometimes that's also telling, helping to care for my nephews is a really big part of my life. So sometimes that's also telling them like, hey, auntie is going to need you to kind of help her, because I don't have it, type of thing. So planning for that and doing different things like that. All of those things is really a part of my self-care plan, which I think any entrepreneur, any person really needs to understand what is required for them in order to help them be well.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you just naturally brought up your nephews because that's one of the things I wanted to touch on for a little bit. There's so many reasons why I love you, so many reasons to have you on the show. Definitely the entrepreneurial thing, seeing you lean into that, seeing your travel. And again, like I mentioned, like the joy that I see in you and like the just like so welcoming of whatever experiences come your way. And I think what I'm getting from you too and what you've said is just like that curiosity. I love people that are curious and I get that from you. And so I love being in touch with you on social media in that way and like living through you in that way. But I also love the family part of things. And so I heard you say a few nephews. Any nieces?
No, so I have 8 nephews in total.
Okay, a few nephews.
yeah. But most of my nephews, there's 6 that are older. They're all in their 20s and early 30s. So the 2 that I have now are 6 years old and 14. So those are the ones that are usually most in my space.
Yeah. I probably have seen the 14-year-old grow up.
Yes.
I think. And that has been so great to witness. So like, I'm assuming the role of an auntie is very important for you.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is. Though I do aspire possibly to have my own child, they have, really served that for me in a lot of ways and taught me a lot, especially the older one, because that one I had a lot of time with him basically since birth. So taught me a lot just about, again, self-regulation, about preparing for things, about helping someone, how important it is to, help a young person see the world and be prepared for it. And so, it's been also being able to give them access to things in a way that I had access to. Maybe some of my siblings didn't because, we kind of had different experiences, growing up. Whereas when I had opportunities to do things, I leaned into them. A lot of my siblings, they didn't. They had other things that were, priorities for them. So that's my little bestie.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got the travel bug because he used to go a lot of places with
Yep.
me domestically everywhere and all of that. And he's also a person that's curious. Like I could say, hey, we're going to New York today, and he'll be like, all right, cool.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
doesn't need to know an itinerary. He might say, oh, can we look at this? So he's also curious. And so last fall, we had a few days. We took about 4 days, and we went to London and Paris. So it was his first. He's been to Montreal, but it was his first time actually getting on a plane to go somewhere. And it was really great to see him and like just the joy of that he was experiencing. Like I remember vividly, like where it was like 10 o'clock at night in Paris, and we had just walked out of McDonald's or somewhere. I don't know where we came from, and he's like just dancing down the street, just like
Yeah. Yeah.
skipping, and so I was able to get a quick video, but I was just like that.
This is it, right?
Yeah,
This
it
is
just was
it. This is what it's all
worth
for.
the money. Yeah, worth being able to, allow him to have that experience, because I remember how pivotal it was for me to travel and experience different cultures. So, at that same age, as him. So now we're planning. I promised him, we'll go to Japan. So we're planning that hopefully
Ooh.
next year is the
Mm-hmm.
plan. And yeah, I mean those kids, as much as they challenge me to be a better human,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I want to escape them sometimes. They're my heart, and I'm really glad to be I kind of call myself an auntie mom, just
Mm-hmm.
because of how involved I am with them. But yeah.
Yeah. But as you were talking, I was like imagining, I'm like, what is it about Krystal that I do love? What is it about the relationship that like feels like between you and your nephew that feels so big and beautiful for me? And I think it's, for me, definitely goes back to what you said about generational curses and being the person who breaks them, right? And who starts to dismantle some of those things. And I think I relate to that. I feel that on many levels. And so when I witness the relationship, like it brings me so much joy to think that you are doing that and the impact that it will have moving forward. And so like I feel that. I love that. Like even deep in my heart right now, I'm like that's really powerful. And then I imagine for him too, like, man, what's it like to have an Auntie Krystal? Right.
I
And
know.
like,
I want to know.
yeah. And how cool is that? And I imagine him getting older and, telling his family at some point, his kids, whoever it happens to be, his friends at school, like, these are the things I was able to do. This is the way now I see myself because my aunt took such good care of me and treated me in these ways. Not that you give him everything he wants sort of thing, but like the person that you see him as, like, that's the person he's going to be. And so that feels, I guess that's a mental health empathy type of thing. But like, I think that's why I really love that relationship, is because it is so deeply meaningful for what it is, but also for the future and what it holds, what it means for your family in the entirety of it.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you saying that. I'm like getting a little emotional just thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, him and I have had those conversations where he's just like, Auntie, I know I wouldn't be able to do this if you weren't doing it, for
Mm-hmm.
me. And, just thank you. And again, his brain is still developing, but to be able to understand that at his age is, really, really great. And also, I connected with him from the time he was born. So, I mean, I've always had kind of a favorite, child out of all the
Uh-oh.
nephews, but this was the one that,
Yeah.
he's been there since birth.
Yeah.
So, I was able to, and again, I have an older nephew that's here with me now. He's 25. And, I also, create experiences with him, too. Like we're going to New York in a couple of weeks. Hopefully we can get on one of Kelly Clarkson's last shows, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just also important for me to, I don't have a close bond with my aunts and uncles. So, if I call them, I need somebody, if I need to talk to them,
Right.
definitely for sure. But as far as like these type of bonding experiences, I don't have that. And so I think as it just was important for me to also be able to provide that and have that. Just again for legacy, like to continue having relationship. That is super important for me to continue to have relationship. And so again, like I have learned so much and have been challenged so much as a person that I did not give birth to a child, but I've raised a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he's taught me, probably as much as I've been able to teach him. And so it really is a special,
It
a
is.
special relationship.
Does he call you auntie? Or does he call you
Yes.
something else? Okay.
Yeah, he calls me auntie. My auntie. That's what he calls me. And I'm like, you're not
that's
the only one.
my auntie. Okay.
Yes.
Yep. I've actually really been loving this conversation, and I hate to think like time-wise where we have to go, but I've got to ask you an important question, being that it's the podcast. We've heard some really great things about you, the work that you're doing, the travel, the role of family, but just got to know, are you weird?
I mean, I would guess so. I would guess so. I think about, like, I say all the time, like, oh, if my family had a TV show, like, we definitely, people would tune in, because it's just like the, the random dance parties, or like, we'll just all of a sudden, I'll just be minding my own business, and then, a song will pop into my head, and then I might start singing it, and then, my brother will join in, and then we're just making our own song. It's just things like that. That's just like, oh, I guess I am. I guess I am a little weird. I entertain myself very well. You would think I was the only child, as much as I do like to be solo and entertain myself. But yeah, I think we're all a little bit weird. I think just owning it and and defining it for yourself is very empowering.
So how would you define weird?
That is a great question. I think of like just the quirks that maybe other people don't need to understand. I also think about some of the things that are habitual, that are just a part of life, that make our life go. Like, I have to have 3 beverages, access to 3 beverages at all times. Like, why do I need to have that? Like, I have to turn the volume on my, like, if I'm doing a volume, like, it's either on an even number, or it's got to be on like the 5s. It's got to be on like 25 or 30. So it's just like those little things where you're just like, yeah. And I also think weird is like a superpower that allows a person to flourish in their creativity. Like, just to be able to fantasize and create, again, when we talked about vision, you have to be able to tap into it. You have to be able to see it. So we've got to take the time to really, connect with self. And that's really taking ownership of, who we are and what it takes to kind of to get there, to walk it out, to get to that vision.
I love that you just said that. I literally wrote it down too, the superpower and creativity, because I have been in this major creation mode. And I think it's because I've been allowing myself to show up and be authentic. And so, like, I don't know, all of my brain just feels like it's flourishing with thoughts and ideas. And I feel so alive and rejuvenated. And I think it's because I am allowing myself to be weird.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no filters. There are still filters, but like, I'm not hindering myself as much. Like, I am allowing myself to truly express myself, and it's really bringing my creativity back. I love that. I love what you just said.
Yeah,
I love all of what you said.
Stop minimizing like what it means to live in our truth. And I think so much of us, we have like discomfort, or we have disease, because we're not allowing ourselves to actually like just be authentic and to understand what that means, So, for me, self-discovery is super important. And that may mean, again, doing things that, go against kind of the grain or the expectation, but it's something that's going to feed our soul. Yeah. And so that's what I hear you say. And I'm glad that you, again, being in helping professions, we've got to be able to continue to innovate, discover, just be curious about things. And, that I think does require us to be a little weird.
It's a prerequisite for the job.
Yeah.
All right, Krystal, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
I'm just happy to be able to share some of my story. I always hope that, something connected with whoever's listening to this. You can, find me on social media. I am dipping my toe back into being online, but I'm on Instagram at I am Krystal CJ, and I'm on LinkedIn as well, where I share a lot of stories about entrepreneurship, how I'm caring for myself as an entrepreneur, my travel, and just different things that I am curious in discovering.
Great. And I'll make sure that we have all of that in the show notes as well, so that folks can write it down or click or find some way to get in touch with you and follow and keep tabs on all the great stuff that you're doing.
Awesome.
All right, so that's a wrap on this episode of But Are You Weird? Thank you so much to Krystal for letting us get to know you and showing us your weird and wonderful self. And thanks to you for tuning in and getting weird with us. I am so glad you're here. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, leave a comment, or share it with your favorite curious mind. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and definitely stay weird.